So that brings us to Flight 2. Flight 2 was basically a longer version of Flight 1. Again, the goal was to take that now. We put 0.6 on the gearbox. We wanted to bring that up to an even 2 hours before we changed the lube in the gearbox. This was going with a new plan from the owner, from Jim. He wanted to make it a company policy that the gearbox oil was changed every 2 hours until he got confidence again in the gearbox manufacturer. From my standpoint, the goal was to minimize the risk and stabilize the engine operation. So I didn't want to be sawing on the power and running weird power settings, etc. The goal was to get everything as stable as possible. So 1.4 plus 0.6 equals 2, 1.4 hours from chocks to chocks, orbiting at 3,500 feet, which worked out nice with the airspace there over Compton, at a cruise power setting, which we were calling 3,000 RPM and 20 inches, and then one normal landing. Again, with the things that we had learned from the first landing on Flight 1, we were trying to apply that. So I went from an approach speed of 80 miles per hour, this is statute, to an approach speed of 85, and then I moved that flap setting from the 15/20 degrees of flaps that I used on the first landing to the more like 10 to 15 degrees on the second landing. Again, with those big flaps came a lot of pitching moment, which meant there was less elevator available. So by getting rid of a little bit of flap, we would have more elevator available, would give us more chance to round out and stabilize that landing. Of course, this comes back to the next question, which probably everybody's already asking, which is, it sounds like the flaps aren't helping. It sounds like all the flaps are doing is actually increasing your approach speed, which is sort of the opposite reason why you would put flaps out. 1,000%. It turns out, and maybe it's obvious, but most owners, if the airplane's got a lever, they want to use the lever. So in this case, at this CG, I would argue the flaps didn't make much sense. I would say in most of the Mustang replicas that's true, because the P-51 has really big flaps, and on these little airplanes it's just that you don't need the drag. The pitching moment that comes with it is excessive, and then there's handling qualities issues. Every one of the Mustangs I've flown, the Mustang replicas I've flown, has pitch issues based on the big flaps. So why are we using the big flaps? And again, I think it just comes down to owners wanting to use them. So anyway, so the plan was to use a little bit less flap, try the flight again, put the time on the gearbox, get back on the ground, swap the gearbox oil out, and see where we were from a gearbox standpoint.
Compton Woodley Airport, automated weather observation 1935 Zulu weather. Wind calm. Visibility more than 10. Sky condition clear below 12,000. Temperature 25 Celsius. Dew point -7 Celsius. Altimeter 3018.
The flight went well, so I won't bore you with videos of me flying racetracks. However, I will show you the landing. I think there's some interesting stuff there.
Compton traffic 9-1, uniforms final. 7 right, gears down, pressure's up.
Compton traffic, Cessna 776 by Tango, turning crosswind. Compton traffic.
You can see that the touchdown was controlled, but I still wouldn't say I was happy with the landing. You can see from the over-the-shoulder angle how the elevator seemed to sort of hit that upstop, or at least I was very close to the upstop. And again, that's just a really uncomfortable position to be in when the ground's coming up, so in a flare situation. Between flights 2 and 3, we changed the oil in the gearbox, again checking for debris. I could find no substantial debris, a very, very small amount of non-ferrous, smaller than sand debris in the oil, and with that I was confident refilling the gearbox obviously and proceeding for flight 3. Flight 3 was very similar to flight 2, except that I cut it a little bit shorter. The day was getting long and I needed to get home to the family. Here's some footage of the belly of the airplane after the last flight. So we didn't clean the belly in between flights, so that's all the oil that had accumulated through 3 hours of flying in one day. You can see there's a couple drips on the ground. There's a little bit of oil on the belly, but there's nothing significant. All indications that the airplane was happy and that we would be moving towards flight 4 very soon. Flight 3 was 1.1 hours. I landed at 3:40 in the afternoon. Again, just giving me just enough time to get over the hill back to Mojave in time to give the kids bath and put them to bed. So we think that's wingtip, that's prop, and that's the left main gear. So wingtip, prop, left main.